What's up, YouTube? If you've clicked on this video, then more than likely you've probably suffered the same injury that I have. So today marks exactly 1 week since I got surgery to repair a torn patella tendon. So the tear actually happened about 23 days ago. So I tore my patella tendon on the 27th of September, and I was not able to get surgery until the 13th of October. So it took 16 days from the time that I tore my patella tendon till I actually received the surgery for the repair. So I'm gonna kind of go over my background, how it happened to me, and how my care is going. Because I know that when I tore my tendon, I ended up watching a lot of YouTube videos to kind of mentally prepare myself for how I was gonna try to battle back and get back to 100%. So I'm gonna start off by telling you my background a little bit, how it happened, and what the protocol is. So I am a U.S. Navy sailor, currently in Australia for a quote-unquote deployment. So that's why I wanted to post this video, because I feel like my circumstances is very different from maybe what the average person is going through. Because not only did I tear my patella tendon, but I tore it in a different country. And I also have a medical background. So I am what most people consider a combat medic in the Navy. So I'm trained to do paramedic type of things, as well as clinical care as well. So I'm very familiar with physical examinations and nose on the knee, which makes my knowledge a little more extensive than probably the average person. So to get down to how it happened, I was only in Australia for maybe a week, which is crazy. And I was dribbling the basketball, driving to the hole, playing basketball, driving to the hole. I go to jump stop, and I don't know if I got tripped or I just landed funny, but I could feel my leg give out from under me. So when it gave out, I fell backwards, and I'm a 230-pound man. So falling backwards, I guess that force created enough force to where when my knee bent back, it completely snapped that tendon at the bottom, right of my femur, right after the kneecap or the patella. As soon as I reached to pull my leg out from underneath myself, because I fell back onto my leg basically, I could see immediately that my leg was basically hanging. There was a space between the kneecap and the tibia fibia, right? Because that patella tendon basically holds your leg together, almost. So I went immediately to the ER. They gave me x-rays, which I knew for a fact were gonna be negative, right? Because when you tear a tendon or a ligament, you're not gonna be able to show x-rays. But hospital protocols, they're never gonna do an MRI right off the bat. They're gonna do x-rays, they're gonna tell you to go home, ice it, blase, 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 and if it's still the same, come back in a week. So I came back that next week, MRI, of course, torn patella tendon. The reason it took so long to get my surgery is because, like I said, I'm in Australia, and so it was kind of like a more arduous process to get me a consult with the surgeon here to actually perform the surgery, right? Because initially they wanted me to fly me back to the States to get this surgery so that I could do physical therapy there. All right. But somehow, some way, we were able to find an orthopedic surgeon here to perform my surgery, which was great because I didn't want to leave. Which leads me next into the differences, right? So one of the main differences of what I've seen, and this is my third surgery actually, so I'm pretty familiar with surgery. They're much more aggressive here in Australia with their recovery. Um, this is what I've seen commonly is done in America is you get your surgery, you get wrapped up um, with that bulky dressing as well as like an ACE wrap, and then they put that range of motion brace on top of that. And what I've seen is you will wear that and locked out straight, keeping your knee in a straight position for a week, even 2 weeks before they debulk it. But not here, not in Australia. So I got surgery on that Thursday. The next day, Friday, they debulked the dressing, took the dressing off, so they only left the steri strips, and as well as the sticky tachoderm. It's like the dressing that goes over top of the steri strips to keep your surgical site intact. So they removed that dressing, that big bulky wrap, basically the next day. And that same day as well, I was expected to put weight on it, which I was very surprised. So that next day for my surgery, with the aid of crutches, of course, I was told to walk on it. And then not only that, like I said, the most of the time, those first 2 weeks in America, you will be locked out in a straight leg position. That very next day, they already have my knee brace, that hinge knee brace that you'll definitely get if you tear your patella tendon. They had it set at 45 degrees starting out. So I have up to from 0 to 45 degrees of flexion that next day, and I already started bending my knee. So from that next day, I already started doing physical therapy. They had me go up and down the stairs with the aid of crutches and the knee brace that's locked to a 45 degree angle. Which is what I was saying, they are very, very aggressive with the recovery here in Australia. So I wanted to share that. So maybe by chance, this could speed up my recovery is what I'm thinking. So from there, I'm going to take you guys through the exercises that they've been having me do already within this first week after my recovery. So stay tuned. All right, so I'm going to be off camera a little bit. Apologize in advance. It's kind of hard to get the right angle in this hospital. But while I set up, I guess one thing that I will address is maybe you're wondering, why am I still in the hospital after 7 days? All right, because in the US, you'd get your surgery and you would probably be gone the same day. So out here in Australia, it is very hot, very humid. Considering where we're staying at, being in the military, the doctor was very concerned with infections setting in. So with that hotness and that humidity, sweating around the site, he wanted to keep me in a controlled environment and administer antibiotics prophylactically to make sure that no type of infection set in at the surgical site. So they decided to keep me here so they can get my strength up and get me well on my way to where I'll be a little bit more independent once I do leave, right? So as you can see, I have this towel set underneath my knee so that with this hinge brace, my knee is exactly at 45 degree angle, right? Because that is the extent they would like me to bend my knee within these first few weeks, right? So you're gonna have to play with the thickness of a towel. You can put a towel or maybe the rollers that you can roll your leg out with, a small one, as long as it gets your leg to this 45 degree angle or whatever point you're at in your recovery. If you have a larger degree that you can bend your knee. All right, so I have my knee on here, got this little band, right? For resistance, you can use another towel. You can use almost anything to do this exercise. This is like the main exercise I'm doing to build my strength back up. All right, and so the idea is if you're trying to strengthen this quad back, which of course, if you've ruptured that tendon, you've lost strength in here simply from not using it. All right, you gotta get that connection back, right? Because it's been surgically repaired. So I will try to contract my hamstrings lifted and then use this as little as possible as an assistance, right? Then I'll let it back down slow. I usually do about 3 sets to 10 of these. So contracting as hard as I can. Whatever I can't physically do to extend it, I'm using this band as assistance, right? And this is just an easy way, or maybe not easy way, but a good way to try to get that strength back in your quad, right? So you just gotta imagine that you're trying to push your knee down into the towel, right? And that's what's gonna try to activate that quad into working, right? And of course, in the beginning, you would start with just those isometric quad contractions, meaning just your knees flat and you're just trying to activate that quad. That's the first step, right? Another thing that they like you to do is to try to write the alphabet with your foot, right? That's getting that connection back as well is one thing. And the second thing, right, is that movement, that pumping of your foot is one of the ideal ways to get all that inflammation out of your knee, right? And as you can see, the hinge knee brace in Australia is a little bit more extensive than what you probably will get. You have a sleeve that velcros as well as straps to tighten across. And this is all metal through here in order to provide that support. The one you'll get will not have all this material in it. You may have 3 or 4 that come across at your knee, your thigh, and then probably down at your ankle. This was all that you'll have. But like you see, it's pretty extensive here in Australia. I do like how aggressive they are, because I'm hoping that can speed up my recovery, because I've seen people don't even start this until about 2 weeks. And my theory is that we do kind of work a little bit backwards in the US, right? Because when you leave a joint to sit in a straight or neutral position for 2 weeks, you're letting that scar tissue build up, right? And that scar tissue is actually what becomes a hindrance to you regaining that range of motion, right? So you're basically working against your own scar tissue to regain your range of motion. And so I've seen after 2 weeks that they start a lot of people at just 30 degrees, right? Meanwhile, since day 1, I've been at 45. So by week 3, theoretically, I should be at 90 degrees flexion. And so I'm gonna keep you guys updated. YouTube, we'll see how my progress goes along in comparison to like the traditional way that people rehab this injury in the US. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. This is really my first time making a YouTube video. I was just motivated because those videos that I watched helped me get an idea of what I was gonna go through and how I was gonna either use those tactics or do it a little differently in order to try to recover as fast as possible. Because that's my ultimate goal, is to get back to normal life, get back to being athletic as quickly as possible. So thanks for tuning in. If you did, like and subscribe.